Now signaling an intent to rebuild a relationship that has been strained over tariff issues and an early conclusion of the proposed trade deal, U.S. President Donald Trump's new ambassador to Delhi, Sergio Gore, has said yesterday that no country is as essential as India to the U.S. Trump has imposed a 25% tariff on trade partners of Iran. India is a partner of Iran in trade, although Indian import of crude oil from Iran stands almost nil. There still exists a total trade of $1.68 billion. Now, this has hit a major roadblock in the negotiations for a bilateral trade agreement between the two sides, it seems. Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat, joins us live. Dr. Sharath Kohli, senior economist, is with us live. Adit Kothari, foreign affairs expert, is also joining us live in the broadcast. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, is with us live as well. Let me make a start with you first, Ambassador Kapoor. What do you make of Trump's latest threat of an additional 25% tariff for all countries that are trading with Iran? What has led him to come up with this new policy?
Yeah, sorry. All the listeners, happy Lodi. This is an auspicious day, all over the world for Bharat and Bharatiya people. Yes, it is another, new initiative, I would say, by the administration here to try to curtail the powers of, Iran, particularly the Iranian regime, and to see how they can try to affect regime change there in a slightly expeditious sort of manner, expedite the whole process of the downfall of the regime by making others also, by penalizing others who try to trade with Iran in any way. And there are in reports of a lot of disruptions and disturbances happening in Iran as it is. And this is another step which will add a lot of pressure on Iran, but also add a lot of pressure on countries like China and Russia, which support Iran very strongly, besides many other countries. India is not a strong supporter or any great supporter of Iran, but India does trade with Iran just like with any other country. So that trade will also, I guess, get affected very significantly. The Iranian economy is in doldrums. The Iranian currency has, undergone a lot of sort of stress. It has the value against the dollar has increased many times. So it's going to be a difficult situation for the regime to see how to cope, because earlier they have been using the armed forces, the state police, the Revolutionary Guards Corps, etc., to suppress such a violent dissent. But this time, it seems so far that the protests are getting out of hand, and that if it is, if it continues, and if it is not brought under control, there may be a serious impact on the regime, because the U.S. Administration has also threatened that if the Iranian regime goes around killing its own people for protesting, then the U.S. will intervene directly. So there are a lot of things at play, a lot of different, balls being juggled in the air, a lot of parameters at work. So let us see what happens ultimately. And if it does fall, who comes in place, all those questions will start coming up thereafter. Back to you there.
Yes, let me in fact quickly also take that across to Dr. Sharath Kohli on what you believe the impact of this fresh tariff threat by the US president is going to be on India. Do you believe India would fall under the countries who would see this additional 25% tariff slapped on us? And what is likely to be the economic implications of this move by Donald Trump, given the latest situation in Iran?
Good evening, Uday, to you, my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. I think it's more of messaging. $1.68 billion is not really a humongous amount. But he's trying to hit two birds with one stone. India has been a target for the last few months, even though he laces it with Prime Minister Modi, the great friend. Prime Minister Modi is a great leader. He's a very nice man. So it's always laced with an announcement which is against India. I've been observing that quite consistently over the last few months. So every time he praises Prime Minister Modi, I get a bit worried that it's going to be laced with some announcement. if you see there is a lot of consistency in what I'm saying. You can pull out all the statements and you find that he's better off not appreciating Prime Minister Modi. At least things remain status quo. As far as Iran is concerned, well, Iranian economy is in doldrums, as we all know. Rial has fallen down massively. People are carrying money in sacks and bringing the goods from the stores in their pockets. So that's been the story of Iran. There's an unrest, although the government yesterday tried to take out pro-Khamenei rallies as well to counter it. I'm not sure if that's going to work because my latest information says more than 2,000 people have now died. I'm sure President Trump is keeping a very keen eye on what's happening, and his his aeroplanes, his drones, his missiles must be ready. I think he's just desperate to do something there. He's saying, I'm going to help the protesters. But he should also know that the state of Iran, what it is in today, I'm not trying to support Iran, by the way, in any way, is much because of the US. The sanctions imposed on the US over the last few years, for whatever be the reasons, although Iran has been supporting, fighting a proxy war on Hamas, Houthi, Hezbollah, and so on and so forth. But then the state of Iranian economy is much to do with the sanctions imposed on US. The second major reason is Iran being over-dependent on oil economy. I think that's been the second reason. I can give you an example of a GCC country like UAE, where the kingdom had informed the people years ago that start preparing your children and don't be dependent on oil, get educated, find alternate businesses, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, that did not happen in Iran, and it is where it is today. As for President Trump, in the midst of discussions going on about the next round of talks in trade deal, here comes an announcement of 25% additional tariff. He knows that he's hitting two birds with one stone, Iran and India together.
Okay.
Well, our exports may be, textiles, chemicals, and a few other things here and there. It may not be a very big amount, but the message it sends, Uday, that's more important. The message it sends is that India is still on the target. So I feel there's a complete disconnect between the talks going on between the representatives and with what President Trump has been deciding. I think they need to be synchronized for anything positive to come out of it, Uday.
Because the fact, of course, is, Adit Kothari, this comes though at a time when the new US ambassador has come to India and taken charge and issued very positive statements and optimism on ties between the two countries, and also on this trade deal getting closed sooner rather than later. Would this then deal a fresh blow to that if it indeed does come into effect?
I don't agree that this particular tariff of 25% will hit India-US relations in any shape and form, because if you look at the trade figures, India does have a trade surplus with Iran, close to the tune of about circa $1.2 billion, and we import only worth $400 odd million worth of goods and services, goods and commodities from Iran, which are largely non-petrochemical, non-oil, oil and gas products. As a consequence, I see the larger messaging being sent to countries like China, Iraq, and Turkey. China trades roughly to the tune of about 22 billion even now, and that is as per the oil tanker data which have been published last year. They are the largest consumers of Iranian oil. So I think the larger messaging from this perspective, I think, is to hit China and Turkey and UAE. I think UAE still trades to the tune of about $6 billion with Iran at this point. So I think that is where they're predominantly hitting at. I don't think this has larger consequences on Indo-US relations as such. Yes, where I think India will get hit is with regards to its Chabar investments, the $500 million worth of investments within Chabar, the INSCTC corridors, which will have some amount of impact as well. India will have to mitigate it with the US. We have been able to successfully navigate through these challenges post the 2019 sanctions, which were put by the US. Just to paint a bit of a picture, trade with Iran prior to 2019 between India and Iran was to the tune of 15 to 17 billion dollars. It is today standing less than $2 billion. But despite that, despite all of these sanctions, India has been able to maintain its investments and stake within Chabar and the INSETC corridors. So I think India is in a safer position. It's quite insulated from that perspective, and I don't think it will have large amount of consequences to India-US ties.
Gautam Mukherjee, will India's ties with the US take a hit due to this fresh tariff threat? Do you see this 25% levy getting slapped on India, or do you believe India will be able to escape it, given the not a very large amount of trade that we do with Iran? Do you see that trade getting scaled down due to this as well?
Yes, if the tariff applies to us, it will, even though it's not very significant in terms of the quantum, it will be affected. But more importantly, people are dying at a fantastic rate because the regime is systematically killing protesters all over the country using their military. And Trump, for all his threats, has done absolutely nothing up to now. And he has lately said that help is on the way, whatever that means. It sounds like a takeaway. Is he going to attack Iran on behalf of the protesters? If he does, then he better get on with it, because people are sticking their necks out and they are being crushed by the regime. And Trump may be altogether too late by the time he acts. And, a regime change in Iran will be welcomed by many, because it could mean a stop to the help given to the Houthis, the Hamas, the Hezbollah, and it will please Israel a great deal. And Israel has a lot of influence in America. But it's unclear whether Trump will go into Iran and actually attack it. I don't know about boots on the ground, but at least an air attack is, I think warranted, but not happening.
Okay.
India will lose its little bit of trade, at least for the time being.
Yes. What does this also tell us about the US's outlook at the situation in Iran moving forward, given the fact that this is a similar policy to what he's imposed with Russia's trading partners as well? What does this tell us, Ambassador Kapoor, about how the US is now viewing the situation in Iran and what they could possibly do next?
Well, US has, carried out with Israel the bombing using one of those big bombs, like mega bombs or mother of all bombs, to bomb their nuclear facilities. After that, they have been threatening Iran regularly that if you again restart your program, we will come back and bomb you. And Israel has also been, carrying out those attacks, where a lot of senior generals of Iran have been killed in attacks in Iran and in Lebanon. So there have been a lot of kinetic action which has taken place in the last year, as we have seen. So US is worried about Iran because of its proximity to Russia and China in particular. It is also worried about Iran because of the funding and support it gives to Hamas, to Hezbollah, to the Houthis, and to a large number of terrorist operations all around the world, and linking up with other countries which support terrorism. So the US has got legitimate cause for worry about the current regime in Iran, that there is no doubt, including they have been supplying those drones to Russia, for example, in its efforts against Ukraine. So to that extent, after Shah of Iran was toppled in the coup, the family of Shah has been staying in US, but they are quite currently out of the mainstream and out of the focus. So, US, I guess, has not yet figured out as to what would be the alternative scenario once this regime collapses. So, they are still trying to understand the pieces of that puzzle. But the action on the ground is moving fast. There are reports about some people being arrested in Iran as agents of USA or as agents of Israel and being persecuted or being sort of eliminated. So that is happening simultaneously. So let us see what happens next, because US is definitely very concerned about it, and I think India should get out of the crosshairs, because the small amount of trade that we have with Iran is not going to make a dent in our overall figures or in our overall efforts, and not going to impact very much the people who are doing that trade. They can look for it elsewhere also. So better to get out of the crosshairs currently, because
Do
currently
you see
we are
that trade getting
under.
scaled down? Do you see that trade getting scaled down, Sharad Kohli, as a result of this? Also, how do you see Iran's other partners reacting to this? China, of course, is possibly also one of the bigger targets of the US through this 25% levy.
Well, the interesting point, Uday, which comes out of this whole thing is that India has already been slapped with first 25, then another 25, that makes it 50, then the threat of 500. Let me play some mathematics. That makes it 550. Add another 25 to that, that makes it 575. So, there is a saying, in the villages in India, I'll put it in Hindi. Jahan satyanas wa sabha satyanas. So it's already 550%. So how does it matter? How does 575% matter? I think it's just numbers being spoken now. I really don't take that seriously. I don't think India is going to be impacted at all, because US has already shut the doors for all Indian imports. So I fail to understand that when the doors have already been shut, you can put another lock on that. It really doesn't matter. So that's the whole story. I think India is going to take a deep thought into this whole thing, because if there is any room for India-US trade deal to work out, Uday, this is the final conclusion out of it. Then, of course, India might stop dealing with Iran, because, as I said, the volume is very minimal. But there would be some countries who would completely disregard that, and China and Russia are top of my list. They will completely disregard that. In fact, they might even decide to increase business with Iran. So I think it's going to be a very, very complicated situation. I'm expecting the next lot of tariffs on India. I don't know on what pretext, but now I think we've become completely indifferent to that. I don't think government of India is taking this very, very seriously, because the doors are already shut. The day he levied 50% Uday, this was another way of saying that please do not send any goods to America. So so you keep levying the tariff, it really doesn't matter.
I think the crude oil import is almost nil from Iran, but there are other goods that are being traded there. I think basmati rice, tea, other commodities. Any economic impact to this? Economic pinch is going to be felt by India?
I think the largest impact is going to be felt by the basmati export corridor. I think that is to the tune of almost 600 to 700 million. So I think that is going to be where we're going to be hit the largest. But having said that, as Ambassador Kapoor also outlined, that we can diversify, we can look at other trade corridors to backfill that sort of a trade loss. So the country in its all on its own, the governmental policies can ensure that they can give some certain amount of insulation and protection to those particular industries which are impacted. But having said that, precedence has it that when sanctions like these are imposed on countries like, say, Venezuela or Iran, these countries have gone dark. They have looked at evasionary tactics, including outright smuggling, networks of using, old tankers and old ships, uninsured ships. And they've used, for example, Venezuela has previously used their crude oil blended with non-sanctioned crude oil, and they've rerouted it through, other third countries like Malaysia and UAE. So I think it will sort of promote that sort of trading activity, which I think is slightly dubious and slightly dangerous, because it will, end of the day, it will continue to empower the Iranian regime and continue to empower the enemies of America as a consequence.
I leave the last word to you, Gautam Mukherjee, on where this is headed next.
Well, I do think that Iran will be attacked by the United States in support of the protesters, and that will hurry things along. As far as trade sanctions, that's a long-winded way of going about it. And as other panelists have pointed out, we may not have very much to lose or gain either way, but I think the main players, Turkey,
Yeah.
Russia and China, will probably step it up because they are fairly dependent on this trade.
Okay, but well, look at it this way. I mean, a similar policy was applied due to the Russia-Ukraine war of 25% tariffs as well on Russia's partners. Has that stopped the war? No. So obviously that does show that this policy isn't effective at all, but still the US administration considering it now for Iran's partners too. We'll of course keep tracking this story. We've run out of time for today's discussion. My thanks to our guests for joining us. Let's slip into a very short break. The news continues on the other side. Stay tuned to NewsX.